Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I am very excited to give you an overview of what I've been doing with small businesses and large corporations all over the world. Typically what I do is I actually do an analysis of the business using something called a executive business analysis. It's 100 questions that basically addresses how you look at each part of the organization. By this, I can see what you're doing as a positive aspect and really validate what you're doing right. And then also look at the areas that are weak, that potentially you've known are weak, but things become rushed, it gets hectic, so they go on and they go on and they go on. And it's understandable, you're working very hard, but these areas are costing you a small or a large fortune. Let me just give you a perspective on this. Again, this is a complementary analysis to help you because we want you to succeed. We want you to achieve your dreams and your goals. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't. And that's truly why I started my company. So here we have a sample graph of what I basically, from the 100 questions, we're going to basically create a graph that's going to show you where you sit in regards to strengths and weaknesses. So here is an example, and I'm going to walk you through this. This test is based on your reality. So if you know you could be, even though you're doing maybe quite well, but you know you could be better in this area and you could be better in this area, then the graph is going to show you a low score. It's not a fail or pass graph. It's a graph that shares the real world, how you see it from your executive long-term strategy all the way to your marketing and public relations. So here's a graph. Now I'm going to walk you through a couple of these points just to give you the perspective. First of all, not everybody likes tests, and I understand it's like you're sort of vulnerable. It's like, or am I going to pass, or I'm not going to, whatever. This is for you to take back up from your company, take a look at where you are, where you want to go. Because really, if you think about it, you have an imagined ideal situation that you want to achieve, whether it be this year or 5 years or down the road. You have an existing scene. Where are you currently in relationship to that? This test basically gives basically a picture where I can help you take a look at, okay, these things need to be addressed because these things have been burdening you, stressing you out potentially, and losing you money. I'll give you an example. So this particular organization is a marketing company, and this is being done by the owner. Sometimes I'll have executives also do the test so I can get a multiple viewpoint. So, for example, this point right here tells me the business is running the person versus the person running the organization. So what I say is the business running you or are you running it? And in this case, the response was, it's running me. Now this is a big point. So I ask that question and I listen. I say, okay, so how is it running you? And the person gives me how it is on a daily basis. And I said, how long has that been going on? And the person will say, in this case, 5 years. I say, okay, so you every day, 5 to 6 days a week, are experiencing this. Okay, and I get details on that so I can get a real perspective of how this is affecting this particular organization and this particular owner's life. The next point I want to just make is, here's a point, not the lowest point, but it's down here. You want to be above this blue mark, but you want also, it's got to be a real perspective. Like if someone's trying to give me the ideal that they would love to achieve, this test will be a dishonest test. It has to be really what's really going on. So this tells me, I asked this person, do you have an executive plan that you're operating to achieve that ideal for you? Is it actually a good roadmap that you're following? And this person says, well, I had one that I made some years ago, but I actually don't use it. I go, okay. So I make the analogy to if you're trying to go up Mount Everest without a map, the likelihood you're not going to make it. And in business, it's even more serious. How do you go there? Where are we going? How are we going? How are we organizing our team? How are we making sure we're getting these steps achieved? And if you don't have that roadmap, it becomes very neurotic. It's go, 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 day in, day out. But it's not guiding you to that destination of where your dreams and your goals were that you set out to begin with. So I say, so how long have you been, this has been going on a neurotic basis? And he says, well, I made the roadmap 3 years ago, but I never paid attention to it. It was a good exercise. I had this consultant to do this strategy with me, and I didn't use it. I go, thank you for sharing. I'm going to share one other point with you, because this is not an uncommon area either. And this is this low point right here. And this has to do with the actual training of the staff to really understand what they're doing so that they actually can perform more efficiently, more productively on a daily basis. Not uncommonly, the person's hired, it's to some degree assumed that the person knows what they're doing, the resume was good, or they're pretty good, but there's no ongoing training to make the person more and more proficient. So there was no training program that has been implemented in this company, not uncommon in a lot of companies, both small and large. In fact, quite often no training goes on in small organizations. Big organizations, quite often they do this seminar or they do this, but there's no necessarily regular, consistent training. And this is letting the company down in relationship to what its potential performance could be and should be. So right here, these two just points. This company was making approximately $3 million on an annual basis. Based on these 3 points that I emphasized there, there's other points, but these 3 points cost this organization approximately 30% of its gross revenue. Now this concept I'll share with you, is called income lost, not made. In other words, this was potential income that was being thrown out over X period of years annually, even though they were making good money. But the potential there was that much more. So basically, we're talking a lost income here of $900,000 of revenue. Now I asked the person, so is that real to you? And he goes, wow, that's a lot of money. And I go, well, that's true, but do you think that's possibly the case? He says, well, yeah, in fact, I wish it wasn't, but you know. I said, it's not like you're just throwing the money out, but you're just throwing the money out because it's got you. The organization's running you. You can't stop it. How do you get back up and get these things put in place? And that's really where an organization like ourselves comes in the sense of helping that organization achieve those and really putting plans in place in this area, in this area, in this area. So we stop the lost revenue and get those objectives met, decrease the stress, etc. So that's an example of this particular graph. Everybody's graph is different, etc. I wonder what your graph would say, and that's really the point. All graphs vary. I invite you to do this test so we can take a look at what your graph would be like, give you some feedback. So I invite you to do a complementary analysis. Again, the point being is whether or not we do work together or not isn't the point. The point is to have you back up and look at it, and I'll send you just an overview of what we cover so you can at least embrace that and move forward. So I invite you to go to intexechtech.com, again, intexechtech.com, to do your own tests, and I'll give you your analysis. I'll be doing periodic YouTube talks like this and go over other tests of different companies. My next one's going to be that I did a test on a lumber company in Hamamatsu, Japan, and I think that could be very interesting to you. Wish you a very good night, a good day. Hope you get the chance to take the test, and we'll get together. Audio